behavior behind bars. That's the rationale Alabama Department of Corrections used when it released Brian Martin after he only served about 3 years of a 10-year sentence for killing his own father. Martin was out on that early release with no mandatory supervision when police say he shot and killed William Mealback Jr. and then led officers on a high-speed chase through Muscle Shoals. That chase ended in a shootout and the killing of Sheffield Police Sergeant Nick Reisner on October 1st. WAAY 31's investigative team started asking questions as soon as Martin was identified as the shooter. Months after demanding the DOC release Martin's prison records, 200-plus pages finally arrived at our station after we paid $221 for those records. Matt Kroschel continues to track the complex issue of good time release. And Matt, you found multiple discipline issues behind bars from 2013 up until Martin's early release in 2016.
And Marie, those included not following prison staff orders, fighting with other inmates that resulted in other inmate with serious injuries. Martin was caught with contraband and drugs. Despite all of this, prison officials released him after only serving about 3 years of that 10-year sentence. It appears a driving factor in that decision process was prison overcrowding, and that decision is one a former prosecutor tells me was a mistake that the Alabama Department of Corrections should have to answer for.
Our system should not be set up in such a way that that's even possible.
Jay Town is a former prosecutor, and he says the decision to allow Brian Martin out early despite 4 disciplinary actions while locked up is a clear case of a broken prison system in Alabama.
Clearly, ADOC made a fatal and tragic mistake here by allowing the early release of Martin.
Martin received 75 days for every 30 days he served under good time rules reserved for model prisoner behavior. The records we reviewed show he was caught with contraband, unauthorized drugs, fighting, and he didn't obey a guard's direct orders.
You know, we have to own these mistakes, but we also have to look back at the process that allowed for this individual to only serve 30% of his sentence.
Prison officials on the review board who ultimately decided to let Martin out commented that Martin had somewhat of a tendency to engage in aggressive behavior. Writing minimum out is approved based solely due to system needs.
And it seems like ADOC knew that he was somewhat of a threat to society. We have to look at the entire process. It's incredibly complicated, but if the entire process is not examined, then we're bound to repeat this mistake.
Where does the buck stop? At the end of the day, who should be answering for what has happened here, and who should be responsible for changing it?
It's very complicated, and you make a good point that can you blame one person, or is it more systemic than that?
Documents show Martin did complete a series of classes while locked up, including anger management. Department of Corrections says inmates who receive good time and don't lose that time due to bad behavior routinely served a third of their sentence.
This was not somebody who needed to be enjoying fresh air. This person needed to be behind bars.
The pressure to deal with Alabama prison overcrowding continues to plague the system. Town says it is resulting in many more violent offenders getting out early. Coming up at 5, our investigation into this incident and Martin's early release continues. For now, I'm Matt Kroschel, WAAY 31 News.